Hi, I've gotten a lot of requests for these types of videos where I go on to an auction site, specifically the Miami-Dade County auction site, and I basically watch with you a live auction. In this case, we're looking at 10 properties that are going into a foreclosure auction in Miami-Dade County on July 3rd, 2023. So what I'm going to show you in about a minute or two is the actual auction site, and we're going to talk about each property, but the goal of this is not necessarily to go property by property and to criticize or to talk about any specific property. It's so that you understand what it looks like when a property goes to auction, and if you're looking to buy an auction property, some of the things to look for, some of the things to avoid, and some of the potential opportunities and downfalls of buying properties at auction. Now, if we go to the website, and I'm going to show you that in 1 second, I'm going to show you kind of where to go so that you can see the auction live and you can watch it. Now, obviously, you're not going to watch this one live because this is live to tape. It's actually live what's going on in about 2 minutes, about 4 minutes. But when the auction, if you're looking to do this type of thing, you're going to need to spend hours and hours before this moment to prepare yourself to get to the point that you can actually bid on a property. Now, the bidding process in the Miami-Dade County and all over Florida, and this is actually probably true in many states, but I only practice in Florida, so that's what we're going to talk about here, is that you have to set up an account with the Miami-Dade County, and I'm going to show you kind of where that is. This is the Miami-Dade County website here. This is the home page, and this is the home and property page. There is a link here on the left, mortgage foreclosures, and it says search mortgage foreclosure auctions. I've obviously already started. I have an account with them, so I have a little account with them here, and I am going to look at the calendar, which is right here, and we are here. We're going to be looking at this calendar here, which is 10 properties being foreclosed on July 3rd. I'm going to close this out. Now, before you get to this point in your research, you're gonna be looking at a lot of different things that involve the state of the property and when the property is for sale, basically. So a lot of people ask me, well, how do I determine, which property to bid on and how to do that? Well, I can't help you 100% because this is a complicated process, but there are things to look for when you are looking at a property that you should be considering. Now, one of the rules of thumbs, red flags, if it's too good to be true, and we're going to talk about a couple of too good to be true here because there's a couple of them in here today. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. And you have to be very careful, specifically on bidding on properties that have HOAs and associations, because when in Florida, when you bid on a property, foreclosure auctions wipe out everything, every secondary lien, meaning that if you're in the first mortgage foreclosure, and second mortgages, any other liens except for HOA liens and property tax liens are wiped out. So HOA liens and property tax liens survive foreclosure. The majority of the times there are no property tax liens because these banks do a very good job of paying the taxes so the property doesn't get sold at auction for taxes, which is a totally different type of auction, which I will go over at some point. But HOA liens usually are not paid by the person that's in foreclosure, and therefore if you buy a property at auction, you're going to be liable for those liens. There are some other things you need to pay for, but in terms of liens, people panic, freak out. Well, what about IRS liens? No, IRS liens do not survive foreclosures. What about any type of line of credit? Line of credits don't survive foreclosures unless it's the line of credit itself that's foreclosing. In the rare event, it's another line of credit before them. But in general, lines of credits and second loans, second mortgages do not survive foreclosures. Now we're almost there. We've got about a minute. So what we're looking at here is the actual site. Now this first property, and this it's pretty obvious, the way this looks is at 9 o'clock, which is in about a minute, we're gonna start seeing the foreclosures. This first property here, this is the address. Now what we're looking at here is the final judgment. The final judgment amount is the amount of money that in the end, that the foreclosure auction, that when the foreclosure went through the courts, that's what the bank ended up getting as a final judgment. So generally, this is the minimum bid for the bank. Now, in this particular case, in this property, the bank put a maximum bid of $262,000. So everybody knows that in order to get this house, you're going to have to bid more than $262,016.95. When you bid over that, then you have a chance of buying it. Now, let me just refresh here because I think we're getting close. Okay, it's not yet. Now this property here, actually, I'll go show you the property in a second. I just want to show you when it starts. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. It should start at any second. There it goes. Okay, so the high bid, somebody already bid $372,000. Remember, I told you 262, but the opening bid is 372. They really want this property. Now, this little clock here shows you how much time left you have in the bid. Similar to eBay, you have 24 seconds for somebody to bid a little bit more. Now, if we go to the property, this is the property. This is a website that I use. It's not one that's accessible to most people. You have to actually have a real estate license to do this, to get this. But this is a very accurate website, and you'll see the address here on the top of the screen. But this says the RVM, meaning the value that this puts it on is 351 up to 359. So this is a single family home. And it's got 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. Now let's take a look at what's going on. Okay, so somebody bid a little bit more, $380,100. So the bidding is basically going on right now, and as you can see, it's a slow-moving process. The minimum bid is usually $100, sometimes $1,000, but those are the increments. So the next bid should be $381,100 or $380,200. Let me see, in about 14 seconds, 12 seconds, less than 10 seconds. Let's see what happens. And did anybody bid? Yep, somebody bid $1,000 or more. See, so the minimum increments are $1,000. So then the clock resets. So again, this is a first mortgage foreclosure. First mortgage foreclosure means that the bank, which in this case is Citibank, foreclosed on this mortgage and is now going, the third party bidders, the people that are buying it on this auction site, are going to get title of the property when this is all over. Now in Florida, in order to get the property, you have to put a minimum deposit. The deposit usually, in order even to bid, if you're looking in the range of 300 up to 500,000, you should put at least $10,000 deposit down. Now, you don't lose your deposit unless you walk away from the bid. If you bid on a property and you win, and then you don't go through with the purchase, then you are in risk. It doesn't happen all the time, but you're in risk of losing your deposit. Okay, somebody else bid $100, looks like. So you see how it goes up by a little tiny bid. Now, what's going to happen here, this is going to go on for a while. Meanwhile, all these other properties are waiting. There's several other properties here. There's a couple that I want to show you. We're going to talk about that in a second. As to explain the bidding process. So when you put in your deposit, then you can go and you can start putting bids. See this place bid? We can click that. And there's a bunch of messages here which we don't care about, but we're going to confirm all that. And this is, obviously I'm not bidding, but the opening bid is 0, the current max bid, and then your maximum bid, the max bid, and it's showing you what it is. So we're not going to get into all that because we're not bidding. So let's see what happens here. We got less than 10 seconds. And it looks like they won. So this property was sold for $381,300. and then we move on to the next one. This next one, and so remember, this property was at 351, so they probably paid a little bit too much for this property, but who knows what their plans are. Oh, so then it drops off. Okay, the next one is the maximum bid here is 284. The final judgment is 286. They're not going to sell this property for $77,000. I'm not even sure why anybody put this bid out there. So this is going to be a while because it looks like somebody just wants to pay very little for this property. And this property is not going to go for that amount. So we can show you right now, less than 10 seconds. And if nobody else bids on this property, then what happens is, let's see what happens. It looks like nobody else is going to bid. Yep. So this property is actually going to go to, let's see, to the plaintiff. So what that means that property we just saw was this one here. It was worth 268. Nobody wanted to bid on it. So the plaintiff won it, meaning the bank won the property back at the auction sale. So that means that nobody wanted this property. It went back. Now this is an interesting one. This one has a final judgment of $1.5 million. We don't know what the max bid, but I can tell you that it's nowhere, that it's not, it's probably 1.5 million, which is their maximum bid. So let's look at this property right here. This is a very nice house. Now the AVM here, meaning the valuation is 1.821, which is the midpoint of this range, $2.3 million. Now, whoever's bidding on this property obviously has a lot of money, and we don't want to miss it. So let's see. Okay, let's see what happens here. Okay, we'll go back to those pictures in a second. I know everybody's interested in that. If whoever's bidding on this property has to have this cash. So this bidder has $1.3 million in cash. Looks like, no, they haven't, nobody else bid yet. So they're bidding on 1.3 million. The final judge is 1.5. We do not know what the plaintiff's max bid is. So if the maximum bid matches the final judgment, okay, see, looks, they bid a little bit more. So now we have a little bit of time to go look at the property. So if you look at this property, it's a very nice property. It's worth a lot of money here in Miami-Dade County. Has a pool. It's got a lot of land. It's a beautiful property. Somebody's going to get this property for less than what it's worth. I'm sorry, yes, exactly. Someone's gonna buy it for less than what it's worth, probably, and then be able to flip it and make some money or live in it or whatever they're gonna do. So let's go back to what was going on here. We have 50 seconds. I'm drinking coffee because it is early in the morning, so excuse me here. Okay, so the high bid here is 1,376,000. 1,370,000. Oh, and then somebody bid a little bit more. So now the high bid is $377,100. So what's happening here is these people had this property for a long time. Now I'm going to show you some other stuff here. This case number shows you the foreclosure case number. I'm not going to click this because it's going to set off a bunch of stuff in my computer here, and I don't want that to happen because I'm trying to do this episode for you. But by looking at it, I know this is a 2018 foreclosure. That means this foreclosure has been going on for 5 years. I looked this property up, and the original mortgage was around $900,000 or something. So this has accumulated a lot of interest. So the difference between what was owed at the time of the default and this final judgment is the interest and other costs, the taxes and insurance and things that these people didn't pay for. So we have 1.5 million, or allegedly didn't pay for, and whatever the original mortgage. I know you want me to show you all that, but I'm not going to do that right now because that's way too much work for this type of situation. It's too confusing. And maybe I'll do a more in-depth deep dive into one of these properties later on. But for right now, we're just going to focus on the actual bid and the bidding process. So this one's actually slow going. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. So yeah, so the bids are going up only by $1,000. This is going to take a while, it looks like. These people are really trying to find each other now. So what's going on behind the scenes is there's obviously multiple bidders, and each one is waiting to the last second to put $1,000, try to trick the one before to see if they're willing to go a little bit lower, a little bit higher. And this is kind of, it's similar to eBay. Now, I tell people that want to do this, buying properties at auction is not eBay. What I mean by that is that you need to do your due diligence. Now, for me, I've been doing foreclosure law, and I've been representing people in foreclosure law for 15 years almost. Now, as you know, over 15 years, yes, so I can actually say that. The issue that I have, well, the thing that I have that most people don't have, is I can look at a docket and I can look at something like this and I can quickly assess without having to spend any money other than the 15 years of student loan payments and maintaining my business and my experience, which I have paid for. Other than that cost, I don't have to pay a third-party source to review a lien search now. If I was to bid on this $1.4 million property, I would get a lien search prior, which is not something that costs a lot of money, but if you're serious about investing in real estate, that is something you're going to have to consider getting. It's about $300 or $400. There are companies that do it. It's I've seen online things, and I'm not going to recommend one because I don't do that. When I'm involved in a real estate deal, I have people that do that for me, people that I trust. But it's possible that there are companies out there that you can purchase a report. Okay, so now it's shot up actually a little bit more. Now we're at 1.414. Now I think this property is going to end up going to the plaintiff, because what's going on here is that the bidding is so low, these increments are so low, they're trying to figure each other out. I think that the property is going to go back to the bank. When I say it's going to go to the plaintiff, that's what I mean, the bank. The plaintiff is the one who does a foreclosure, who sets off the foreclosure, and who is the one that's going to get the property in the end in most of these cases. Now, in the past, I've been doing this for a long time. So when I used to do these type of auctions and I used to watch this for clients, I would notice that the majority of the properties would go to the plaintiffs, meaning that most people weren't bidding on these properties because the final judgments are so high that people never really got a chance to buy them because they would go to the plaintiff first. Or the bank didn't want to let the property go to foreclosure, so it would raise its, oh, here we go. Oh, no, we got another bid. Again, these are tiny bids. They're going up by $100. This is not seriously going to go to a third party, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like these people are just playing around. Now, if you had only put $10,000 down as a deposit on this property, the system won't let you bid on these things because this requires a much higher deposit. These people are not. These are not. You can't just show up here and play around and play games with the system and bid on something that you have no intention of actually buying. And remember, if you do that, let's say you do put a $50,000 deposit down and you walk away, you're in risk of losing your $50,000. So you have to be really careful with that. Now, we have about 20 seconds left on this bid. This one I think might end here. Let's hope. Oh, nope, it goes up. I think by $3,000. I think they're starting to get a little more serious. There's somebody there who really wants it. So again, this property has been on the market. Has been in foreclosure for 5 years. And what happens in the foreclosure is the property basically gets all the interest that wasn't paid, all of the taxes that weren't paid by the owners are accumulated into that difference between what was owed at the time and what the final judgment is. So in order to get this property, you have to go over this plaintiff's max bid, which is hidden. It's not here, so we don't know what that's going to be, but I'm guessing that the max bid is the final judgment. They keep going up. This one is by $100. So again, we are going to speed this up, and I'm going to get to the end because this one's going to take a while, and then so we can get to some of these other ones, because there's a couple interesting ones in here. I'm gonna skip around a little bit actually. I'm gonna show you one here which you need to avoid. Actually, no, this one is good. The next one, no, hold on. I'm gonna show you one. Let's just get to this end and see if they bid before I jump over to another property. We got 43 seconds. So, like I said, this property, in my opinion, is gonna end up going to the bank because of the way that people are bidding very low. They don't want to go to this 1.5. They don't think the house, even though the house is probably worth over that. See that? The bid went up a little bit, and now we're down to, let's see, maybe this is over. 15 seconds. So we're looking at 12 seconds. I know people are just speeding up to the end. Up, it goes up to a minute. Okay, so this other property that we're going to look at here, this property here, which is going to, I believe it's the next one. Yes, it's the next one. All right, this one looks good for people on here because this one, oh my God, it has $63,000 final judgment. We don't know. This is the maximum that the bank can get, 63,000. So, and the house is worth significantly more than that on paper, 426,000. So this is where the novice will jump into this head first and bid 100 grand, 200 grand, because oh, it's all easy money. I'm gonna get a $426,000 mortgage, property for $100,000. Now, don't do that. And I'm gonna tell you why. And this is not, you cannot tell this from looking at this. You can only tell by doing your research and going into the foreclosure case, looking at the complaint, and you're gonna see that this is a line of credit. And when there's a line of credit situation, basically lines of credit are second to first mortgages. So if this property has a first mortgage and has a line of credit, which this one does, then the line of credit can foreclose on the property, which is great for them. However, what's bad for you is that if you are the poor bastard that buys this property, you are buying it subject to the first mortgage, which means that if there is a first mortgage, you are now the owner of a debt. Because yes, you get title in the property, which means you're allowed to possess the properties, which means if the house is empty, you're allowed to move in, you can rent it, but you have this first mortgage behind it, which we don't know what it is. I didn't take the time to go and research this because this is an extremely time-consuming thing to try to figure out the first mortgage on these things. But it's possible in other situations, because this particular property is a little quirky, but most of the time you can figure it out. But in this particular case, I tried, actually, I'll be honest, I did try. I couldn't really figure it out. So I'm not gonna tell you that there's no first mortgage. I'm assuming there is a first mortgage, which means that if you were to buy this property, and I'm talking about this one here, I'm talking about this property here, not the one that we're watching. Hopefully we're gonna get to this one in a second and we can see what happens here. But if let's say you were to buy this property, you would own then the right and title and interest in the property subject to the first mortgage. Now it's a lot of legalese, but it's actually pretty common sense. Hold on, let's go back here because we've got 10 seconds left. Maybe we're gonna get a winner on this one, less than 10 seconds. Nope, they bid $2,000 more. So these people are incrementing up. This is gonna take a while. So we might actually have to go through all of these properties first because I don't want to this can't last 2 hours. Usually this goes faster than this, but okay. So let's go back to this. So if you were to buy this property, what would happen is, I'm talking about this second one that what's about to happen in a minute or two, hopefully. You would then be subject to the first mortgage, meaning that you still have to pay the first mortgage, point blank. So in certain situations, it makes sense to buy these second mortgages. Number one, if you figure out there is no first mortgage, then hey, you just made a bundle. Because yes, then you did buy a property for a lot less than it's worth by paying off the second mortgage. Great. If you find those are out there. That does exist. There are people that have paid off properties, and for whatever reason, usually it involves And I'm not sure what happened here. I have no idea what happened here. I'm just very hypothetical. But it involves people, oh, hold on. Nope, they went back. They bid a little bit more. When these second mortgages are out there, lines of credit, and there is no first mortgage, usually it's an estate, meaning somebody passed away, and it's an older person that maybe took a line of credit and then wasn't able to pay it, so then they passed away, and then all of a sudden there is this thing where the heirs can't afford the property, can't refinance it, so therefore the property is lost. If you were to buy that, in that situation, you would get a property, you would make a lot of money, because in this situation, you would get a property that's worth a lot more for very little. Now, again, if you were, let's say that you were to buy this property and it did have a first mortgage, what would happen? I can't tell you how many people walk into my office with this. There's two scenarios. There's second mortgages and there's HOA liens. There's actually a couple HOA, I think one HOA, yes, at the very end, there's one HOA lien foreclosure case, and this applies for both. And this is a very unfair result for the person that buys it. But again, if you're doing this without understanding what you're doing, then you could very well run into a problem. I had a client come in, or a potential client, I didn't take this case, but they come in and they purchased a property, and I've had people tell me this story. The 15 years, I've probably heard this 30, 40 times, but I'm talking about a very specific case where they put $100,000 down. They bidded this auction site, this exact auction site, and they put 100 grand into this property because the final judgment was very low, and they won. They were the highest bidder. And then hold on. We have less than 10 seconds left. Let's see if, oh, nope, it went up. Okay, so these people bought one of these, I think it was an HOA, wasn't a second mortgage, but it's the same concept, same exact thing. They bought the property, and they were all excited, and then when I think the property was empty and everything, they were able to get in without a problem. They didn't have to evict the people in there. It was a great day for them, but then they realized that they started receiving notifications at this property that there was another foreclosure, and they didn't understand that. So they brought that to my office, and I looked at it and I said, yeah, the first mortgage is now foreclosing, and they're foreclosing on you. So you're gonna lose your $100,000. Oh my God, what can we do? Only thing you can do is pay off that first mortgage. That's the only thing you can do. Now, that's not true. You can sell the property. In theory, you could sell the property and pay off with the proceeds the first mortgage and maybe get your money back, but that's extremely difficult. And there's a couple reasons why it's very difficult. Number one, because the banks won't deal with you, and you need the bank's cooperation to be able to get a payoff. And now it's not 100% of the time they won't do this, but it's very possible they won't give you a payoff, meaning that you can't actually sell the property, and because you can't close if you don't have a payoff. Oh no, we're at 30 seconds. So what happens is, a lot of times these people, they come in and they're unable to sell the property. They're just sitting there. I mean, maybe if you're lucky, you can rent the property, get some of your money back, but even that is a nightmare, because tenants, in my opinion, when they start receiving foreclosure notifications at the address, they panic and they won't pay your rent. Because if you think about it, if you're a tenant and all of a sudden, hold on, we might have a winner here, less than 10 seconds, 1.45, nope, yep, there it is. Okay, so someone bought this property at 145,600. They got a good deal. Somebody made some money here. So that's a great, because in that one, we're gonna go back and look at it again. That one is this one. The AVM is 1.8. They're paying now. You have to have all the money. So whoever had that property, whoever won that bid, had a significant amount of money to pay that off. But yeah, so they got the property for a significant discount, a couple $100,000. So that was probably a good investment right there. Okay, this is the one we've been talking about, the second mortgage. Somebody put a bid of $322,000 on this property. Now they might know something I don't know. Hold on, let's see. I think they won. Yeah, they won because nobody else is going to bid on this. Oh no, somebody else bid. They might know that there's no first mortgage on this property. That is possible. I don't know that. These bidders could be associated somehow or working with the owners, and this is a way to get some money here. Now, the problem here is that if that is not the case, if they are not working together and this bidder is bidding $332,000 on a $63,000 final judgment, yes, the property is worth more than that. Let's look at it again. It's right here. The property is worth $426,000 according to this. Let's take a look at it. It's an older house, but it is in Miami. These houses actually are going for a lot, so it could very well be a good investment. It could actually be something that is worth buying. So who knows what's going on here? But if there is a second mortgage, if there is a first mortgage on this property, they are not getting this property for $63,000 or $336,000. They're getting it subject to the first mortgage. And I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to do a follow-up because I'm not sure, what to tell you on that one. But unless these people have inside information or they did a lien search and they figured out that there was no higher, that this is it, this is the only mortgage, then if that's the case, then this is a good buy if we get it for around $340, around there, for less than $450,000. If not, then the person and I'm going to tell you what happened in this situation. Let's assume that there is a high bid of $342,000, and that's the bid that ends up going here, and the final judgment is $63,000. Okay, who gets the difference? It's called the surplus. Let's make the numbers round. Let's say the high bid was $350 and the final judgment was $100,000. So there's a difference of $250,000. Who gets that money? I'm going to tell you who gets the money. It's the owners. The owners who haven't paid for many, many years get a windfall of $250,000. I had a client come in with that exact same situation recently. They had bought this property and they had put all this money in, and then the owner happily went and filled. It's a one-page little form. It's a request for surplus. They submitted it. This owner hadn't paid their house in many, many years. They had got to live there without paying for a long time, and then at the end got, I think, $150,000 little check for them. Here you go. Have a nice life. You won the lottery. So the one who wins in these situations is the owner who gets the surplus. Now, again, I don't know the specifics, as I've told you from the beginning. I'm not going to get into these, and I know I'm going to get questions and comments. Oh, what happened? I'm not going to answer those. I'm sorry. But I'm going to tell you right now that it's very possible that these people know something we don't know, and it's very possible that there is no first mortgage, and this was the only mortgage. And if that's the case, they're going to get a pretty good deal here. If it's not, then they have problems. I mean, I guess I don't want to get too into it, but there could be a first mortgage that's $100,000. So maybe even then they know something we don't know. But I always assume, here we go, less than 10 seconds. I think this is it. It's going to go for $345. $345,100 is going to be the final auction price on this one. I think so. Yep, there it is. $345,100. And this one was this property here that was worth $426 according to this website that I use. But who knows? Again, I told you all the problems. Now the next one is a more normal case. The final judgment is $168,000. This one here. This one is worth $372. This is an interesting one too. Okay, it's worth $372 up to $476 depending on the inside. This obviously is not a property that they were able to look inside, so you can't get a real. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,000 square foot in Miami Gardens, which is an up and coming area here in Miami-Dade County. So the bid is 170. So we're over this. I'm sure we're over that. So now the bids are going to go up because someone's going to get this property, 189, for the AVM's 372, meaning that it's worth that. Now these AVMs, I'm going to talk about this. This is the same thing as you get on Zillow, on Realtor.com, on all these websites. They give you an amount. It's called an AVM. You got to be careful with these amounts though. A lot of times Zillow, when if the property has been on the market ever, then when the realtor puts the information into their realtor system, that system floats out into the internet with AI now, and then Zillow doesn't necessarily do its own analysis. It's a computer system. It's an algorithm that picks up these things, and they just grab the list price that's from the realtor sites. Here in Florida, it's the MLS. Now, what happens then is that you're looking at a price from Zillow that's just a realtor's opinion of what the house costs. Could be high, could be low. We're not sure. So what I'm telling you is that Zillow is not. It's nothing against Zillow. It's not specific to Zillow. It's just the way that these things are. Most of the time, when you're dealing with non-distressed properties, those property values are fine. But when you're dealing with distressed properties, you have to do your own research on this. You can't just assume, oh, you type it in Zillow. I mean, it's a good rule. It's a good starting point to give you some idea. But remember, a lot of times these, I think this one, if you look at Zillow, it has like $100. It doesn't even have any amount. So it's the kind of thing that you have to be very careful of. Now, this other, and I don't promote this. I don't know. This is something that I actually get from paying for my dues is with my real estate license, which I have on top of my law license, and specifically for these reasons. But I don't know anything about this website beyond that. This one says 372. I like this website because I can run reports and things, and it gives me reports, more in-depth reports on values of properties. And so this one is a range up to 476,000. Oh, 476. Remember, these are ranges, and we don't know what is going on inside this property. We don't know if it's gutted, if it has anything. There's no pictures. There's no nothing. So this means that this is the only picture you're going to get. If most likely you're going to have to, if you live in the area, you're going to have to go check it out yourself. Have a look. Maybe it's empty. Maybe you can look in the window. Be careful doing that because Florida, it's stand your ground state, and they can shoot you if they feel in reasonable threat of their lives. So I wouldn't be crawling around people's neighborhoods inside their houses or looking around. But you can do a drive-by. You can look at it. You definitely look at it. All right, let's go back. See, the bidding is already up to 193. We're getting closer to the real value. But again, if you were to go to this website, if you were to go to this property, I would definitely do a drive-by, see the neighborhood, take a look at it, and then I'm going to tell you this. People don't like to hear this, okay? But if you're serious about buying properties at auction, and this is something you really want to do, you should seriously consider getting a real estate license. It is not a arduous process, especially here in Florida. It's very minimal. I think it's $400 or $500 for the course. It's a 7-day course. A lot of it, you can do it online. Then you got to take a test. And yes, it does cost money to be a realtor, to have access to all these tools. So you're looking at an investment of your time and money of, maybe $2,000, $2,000 with everything in. And you get your real estate license. Now, you don't want to be a realtor. I get it. I don't want to be a realtor either. But the real estate license lets you look at things that realtors look at. The MLS, the big thing, which is the listing service. But then it has all these other tools and things in there. And I'm sure that wherever you live in the United States, there is very similar tools that are available to realtors, because real estate is a very sophisticated profession at this point. And there's a lot of tools and a lot of email, a lot of websites, a lot of ways for people to for realtors to get information and to get information to their clients. So it could behoove you to get your real estate license if you're serious about this. Actually, I'm going to tell you right now, hold on. We got less than 10 seconds on this one. The bid's at 200,000, 200,000. Oh, they went up by 400 bucks. Okay. If you are serious about investing in foreclosure properties or real estate in general, get your real estate license. It costs you some money and it's a little bit of effort, but you can't do this. You can't do this, what I'm doing, without your real estate license. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't do it. And if if you have a partner who has a real estate license, then you're good. But if you're doing this stuff on your own and you want a leg up on a lot of people, then get your real estate license, because that opens up all kinds of information, all kinds of things for you to be able to go out into the world and do this, what I'm doing right now, and to research these properties and to have an idea of what things are cost. So you're better off and you're able to understand and not throw away money, because in the end, this is a lot of money. Even at $205,000 is where we are on this property. This is a significant amount of money. This is not chump change. If this is your first purchase, you're going to want to have the most information that you can. And if you're doing this for other people, of course, you don't want to be doing this for other people if you don't know what you're doing, because you're going to get sued if you make a mistake. This is the other question that I get a lot. Do you need all the cash? Yes, you do. This is a 100% cash transaction. You cannot finance these things through any kind of traditional bank. There are hard money lenders out there that might quickly lend you money to pay off if you were to bid on one of these things. But that you need to be working with them already, and you need to be doing this together. So it's almost like a partnership. You're not going to be able to bid on one of these with your $10,000 and then run off and get money, because the payoff is very quick. It's usually 24 to 48 hours, so you have to bring in all the money. This is a cashier's check to the county court. You drop it off, and then it's yours. Actually, not. I'm sorry. There's still more to it, but it's yours up to that point. And oh my God, Diego, what are you talking about? Explain that to me. I will in a second. Give me a second. But let me just get back to my point. You cannot do this unless you have all of the money. You cannot do this unless you have all of the money. Now, nowadays, people are getting money. I don't know where they're getting all this money. So there are people out there with money, or you can pool the money with your friends and then go out there. This one's still going up. It shot up a little bit more. We're at $225,000. So you have to be ready to deposit the full amount of the purchase price in order to buy this. That's why this is a business. As I said a million times, this is not eBay. eBay, you buy some crappy thing on there that you pay for, you didn't pay for, who knows, who cares? You get it, you throw it in the trash, doesn't matter. This is a significant amount of money, a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you need to have all the cash. I get the question all the time, can you finance it? How do you finance it? You can't finance it. You can only finance it if it's the person is giving you the money, somebody you know. Therefore, yeah, then they just give you the money and you're good. But if it's not somebody you know, you're not going to be able to finance this through any means. I'm going to skip forward a little bit till we get to the end of this, because this was taking a long time. Okay, looks like this one's finally closing out. Oh, nope, it's still jumped up a little bit more. Okay, look, we're going to move forward a little bit on these, because obviously this one's going to take a lot. These next two properties, this one and the one that comes right after, are interesting because they're both reverse mortgages. How do I know that? Because I did my research and I researched who the plaintiffs were. It's not hidden information, it's not secret information, but you're gonna have to and actually what I did here was, when you create an account with this, it gives you some information. By clicking on this, you actually get some information about who the plaintiff is and stuff, and you can look at it. But just trust me when I tell you that this one and the next one are reverse mortgages. So let's take a look at this first one, 1500 Northeast 127th. This one is a final judgment 163. So that's probably the bid, the maximum bid is around there. We look at this property. This one is worth 151 to 175. It's a little condo. Now, what is a reverse mortgage? And this is not a class on reverse mortgage, but I'm going to tell you, reverse mortgage is when an older person over 65 has a paid off property and they just take a mortgage out, and they either get the money or the company pays off for whatever is owed, and then they don't have a mortgage payment anymore. And then the older person's only responsible for the property taxes and the HOA and the insurance. That's it. They don't have to pay anything else. A lot of times they actually get money, and then they're able to get a little bit of money on their house. They essentially live for free other than the property taxes. So what happens in that situation? The property basically is in a reverse mortgage foreclosure. The property is foreclosed by the reverse mortgage company. The reverse mortgage company, the ones that gave that loan to this older person, they basically say, okay, you have, I believe it's a year, for your heirs to come up with the money to pay off what's owed. If not, then the property will be put at auction, and then so they can get their money back. There's also the situation where the folks who have the reverse mortgage fall behind on their property taxes, or they don't keep the house insured. And in those situations, the mortgage company that has the reverse mortgage will also foreclose on that. That's a more rare situation, or if it's rarer or more rare, but it's less likely that's what's going on, because most of the time people, those amounts of money are tiny, and this is not that, because it's $163,000 on this one that we're going to look at in a second. And $163,000 is not back property taxes on this older property. So this is somebody that passed away, and the heirs couldn't. There were no heirs, or the heirs weren't able to come up with the money. So then this property is then auctioned. These are, for the most part, these are good because they, this is probably nobody's living there, because they passed away, and you get the property for very little. This one is worth it's not worth much, but it's a good little condo. Now remember what I told you about this. The only thing about these properties you have to be careful of is the HOA, because in that property, the one we're going to look at here, there is an HOA. It's very likely, it's for sure likely that there's some HOA debt there, mostly because if they passed away a year ago, and all this time that has gone on for this foreclosure, there's been enough time that you're going to have to pay something, the HOA. Now, on these little properties like that, the HOA is not going to be high, so you're looking at a couple $1,000s more than what you're bidding on. But it is some amount of money beyond what you were expecting to pay. So again, we're still looking, and I'm going to talk about that now when we actually get into their bid. But we're still looking at this bid here, this Miami Gardens property, and we're at 275. This one, again, let's remind everybody, is a 372. We don't know the status of the property, but somebody's going to want to buy this. Looks like. I bet you this is not going to go. I'm guessing this one's going to go for around 300. That's my guess. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully, because this has been going on for too long. At 275, 100, is somebody going to bid more than that? Somebody bid $1,000 more. So what's going on here. These are just regular people bidding. These are not institutional. Institutional, like banks and things, they don't bid like this. From what I've seen, they bid higher, so they know this property is going to be worth X amount. They'll go up much higher. They'll bid 300 just to end it and get their property. But this is somebody who's just trying, has this money. See, they bid a little bit more. I guess what happens here is if you bid 1,000, the clock resets. If you bid less than 1,000, then it doesn't reset the clock. So this one's actually might go now 280, 300. It actually, somebody bid a little bit more there, so it reset the clock. Okay, So again, let's go back to our discussion about reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages, like I said, when the person passes away, the bidders, I'm sorry, the heirs have an opportunity to buy it. Many times the heirs don't have the money or the interest, or there are no heirs. And that's it. The house goes off. The first mortgage company gets the proceeds, and that is the end of that. So, you know, people ask, is getting a reverse mortgage a good idea? I can't tell you that. I'm not a financial advisor, but a lot of people, it does work for them because they don't have to make a mortgage payment for many years while they're here with us. I'm going to jump off and speed this up, because if not, we're going to be here for hours. So I'll be right back when this Miami Gardens property goes to the final 10 seconds. So I'm going to have to break this up into two pieces, this video, because this is taking a lot longer than we thought, and I can't have a 2-hour long auction video. Usually these auctions go a lot faster, but we've had a couple of these that people are bidding very low. Like again, this Miami Gardens property, we are still nowhere near the end, I don't think, or maybe we are, I don't know. 305 is where we are. Again, this one is, let's look at it again, 372. So I think we're getting to the end. I don't think they're bidding more than this, because then you're starting to talk about the cost of improvement. You know, if 375, it's probably $70,000. Let me think, this might be over here. Less than 10 seconds, hopefully it's over. Nope, people just keep bidding a little bit more, a little bit more. So again, we're probably gonna have to cut this up into two pieces, because we can't have a 2-hour long YouTube. YouTube won't even let me do that, I don't think. So we're gonna cut this, we're gonna do a second part, and we're gonna talk about the other properties that are in here in a second piece, the second part of this. But again, a couple points you need to remember when you're dealing with these. If you're looking to actually do this, you need to be very serious. This is a huge investment of time and money. You need to be able to have all the money together, and you need to understand what it is that you're doing. Don't just throw, some people, for some reason, they get 100 grand and they throw 100 grand into this and they lose 100 grand. I've seen it. I had a young woman come into my office with that scenario, and honestly, there was nothing I could do for her. She was frustrated. She invested $100,000 of money that she'd been saving, or I don't know where she got the money, but the money was gone. And in the end, she did not get a property for 100 grand, and she lost her $100,000 because she bought a second mortgage foreclosure, and the first mortgage was still out there, so therefore, that's it. And the only one that made any money there was the owner, who got a nice fat surplus check of whatever it was over the final judgment. They got out, they won, they got out with a lot of money, but the buyers didn't. So this bid is still going on. I'm hopefully to get to the end, because we have 17 seconds, 15 seconds left, and nope, it keeps going up. So yeah, we're gonna have to cut this up into two pieces. I'm gonna come back on the second one, and we're gonna start off with this one so that you don't feel that you missed anything. I will start with this one, and then we can watch. After this, there's gonna be 4 more properties, and like I said, the 2 reverse mortgages, and there's actually one of these association ones. So we're actually gonna be able to see that one also, and see what happens with that one. So stand by for part 2 coming very soon.